Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Valentine's Day. Today, I had the privilege of watching a friend of mine get married. It was a beautiful ceremony of love. Jesse and Rebecca, I'm so stoked for you guys. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a love junkie. I love love. The other thing that I love that you may not know if you're not close to me is I love when a man calls his spouse bride instead of wife. When he says something about my bride's over there, or let me call my bride, let me check with my bride. It's always just been different for me than wife. That thought process has moved over to us in Jesus. That we are not called the wife of Christ, we're called the bride of Christ. So that thought, when that landed, led me to call Tyler and ask how to do a word study. I wanted to understand more about these two words and what they meant, because I knew that it wasn't an accident that we are called the bride of Christ, that there's intentionality behind it. So in looking at these words, when you study the word wife, the first root word that you land on means man, mankind, servant. Makes sense. If you go to the root word of that, you land on a definition that is weak, desperate, incurable. Incredibly heartwarming, isn't it? Bride, however, is a bit more optimistic. The root word for bride is a word that means to make complete, to make perfect. The root word for bride is also a verb, and a verb is used to convey action or existence. In the kingdom, the word bride is not solely directed at females. I encourage you men to allow the Holy Spirit to let this message land in your heart and not let your mind stop it. I hope you can receive it. Likewise, you don't have to be an earthly bride to receive this message. If you are single, then I encourage you to use this to understand what you deserve in a marriage, but to also understand that you're already loved and adored this way. I believe in order to complete the original intention of the Father's heart, we need to become the bride. Yes, as a whole, the church is called the bride of Christ, but tonight I want to talk about individual bridal identity. January 6, 2022, I received a word from a friend of mine, and he said, I landed on his heart that morning, and he felt like the Lord told him that I was supposed to view the Lord as my husband, so that when it came time, I would know what to look for and see in an earthly husband. Obviously, that time has not come, and that'll be a topic for another week. But what has happened is I see myself as the bride. It's taken me 2 years. It's taken me 2 years to step into this thing that's been a reality the whole time. I just couldn't see it. He's been romancing me this whole time. I just didn't recognize it. Sometimes the romance is so subtle that I don't realize that it's happened until days later. And then I think of something and I'm like, oh my gosh, how beautiful. Like, thank you so much for that. And sometimes it's incredibly blunt. It's so blunt that I can't help but cry out Jesus when it happens. It happened to me a few times when I was writing this, when he would just give me a revelation or just link something together just so beautifully that I knew obviously I could not make that happen. I can't help but just cry out Jesus because it's so beautiful. He's romanced me in ways, and it's through my love languages. He creates our hearts, and so he knows how to speak to us. It's through people he's put in my life. It's through nature, through getting to see just beautiful scenery, an incredible sunset, a beautiful sunrise. My favorite part of a wedding ceremony is watching the groom's face when his bride is walking down the aisle. I got to see it again today, and it's the sweetest, purest thing to witness. I believe Jesus is at the altar waiting for us to walk down the aisle. He's there, and he's waiting with anticipation, excitement, and love. Just like any earthly groom would not yell at us to hurry up and get down there because they're just so excited to marry us. Likewise, he's not going to yell at us to hurry up. As much as he wants us to get there, as much as he wants to marry us, he's going to allow you to take the walk down the aisle. He's going to allow your Father to walk you down the aisle. He's going to allow you to take your time, enjoy your walk, and gaze at him the whole time. When you finally get to the altar, he's going to say, I do. And he's going to say, I do, before you've removed the veil. Before you unveil what is underneath, he's already said yes to a lifetime of loving you through everything. He's already said yes to protecting you and cherishing you. He doesn't need to see beyond the veil before he commits his life to you. Before he totally commits to you. Because he already knows what's underneath the veil. He already knows what he's getting. He's getting the last part of himself to make it perfect. He's getting the last piece that completes the design. He's receiving his bride. And just because he knows what's underneath doesn't mean we don't have to take the veil off at some point. It doesn't mean we don't have to unveil ourselves. To receive the kiss that seals the covenant, we need to remove the veil. We need to give him access to seal the covenant so we can move into intimacy. When we remove the veil, we are face to face with our bridegroom. We are face to face and in the original position we were meant to be. 1 Corinthians 13:12 says, For now we see but a faint reflection of riddles and mysteries as though reflected in a mirror. But one day we will see face to face. My understanding is incomplete now, but one day I will understand everything just as everything about me has been fully understood. We say I do. We allow the veil to be lifted. We become face to face with Jesus. We get to fully understand who he is, and we get to fully understand who we are. I want to be very clear in this message, though. We say I do before the kiss. A marriage is not binding once the kiss happens. Marriage is binding after the I do's and vows are said. So he is in covenant with you before the kiss happens. He is in covenant with you before you take any action to reveal yourself to him. His covenant isn't dependent on your action. But you do get intimacy. You get deeper relationship and connection with the unveiling. When you say yes to a relationship with Jesus, you become aware of how he is romancing you. He waits for the relationship to mature into a place where he can propose. When you say yes to his proposal, he continues to romance you until the day where your yeses become I do. And intimacy can take place. For me, for my maturity, for my journey, Beloved identity was the first outcome of saying yes. Was the first outcome of relationship with Jesus. Beloved righteousness was the next. That was my moment of proposal. And bridal identity is the final. Bridal identity is the final I do in this relationship. Intimate, by definition, is closely acquainted, familiar, close, private, personal. Romance, by definition, is a feeling of excitement and mystery associated with love. If someone in your life has stolen the original meaning of some of these words that we talked about tonight, I encourage you to rescue them. Your past doesn't own anything, including words. You deserve intimacy and romance. Jesus is so patient. He's not in a hurry. His bride is worth the wait. His bride is worth the pursuit. You are his bride, and you are perfectly loved. Have a great night. I'll see you next week.